All right, so just about that time, Marnie, if you'd like to kick it off.
Absolutely. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining our webinar hosted by Evolve Systems. Our topic today is Evolve Your Website, Simply Add E-commerce. Today it's my pleasure to introduce your host, Don Raleigh III. Don is a new business manager for Evolve Systems and has been on our team for 5 years. Don connects our clients with digital services that will advance their company. He has developed his skills with Evolve to become an esteemed partner among his associates and community. Don's speaking career has included being a featured speaker at Digital Summit. Clients have invited Don to be a keynote at their events across the United States on marketing and e-commerce. He has been a guest speaker for several local chambers of commerce here in Minnesota, and it is my pleasure to introduce not only a great asset to our team, but also my son. Ladies and gentlemen, Don Raleigh III.
Hey, thank you, Marty, for that introduction. I can hear all the audience clapping virtually right now. I appreciate that introduction. First of all, I want to say thank you all to registering for our webinar. This is a live session, and it really does mean a lot. I appreciate all of your support. Just a couple of housekeeping items. This is a live session that is being recorded, and so you will be muted during the presentation. If you have any questions, we do have a Q&A session with Joe Drennan, Evolve Systems Digital Coordinator, once we finish the presentation. So please submit your questions to the Q&A section in the Zoom features at the bottom of your screen. We'll have the session available for your viewing pleasure before the end of the week. So you'll be able to rewatch this with your friends and family, because that's what we do here at Evolve Systems. This presentation will encompass the top 5 major questions and concerns that we've seen here at Evolve Systems when approaching a new e-commerce shopping cart conversation. We're doing our best to respect everyone's time and keeping this presentation to under 45 minutes with some Q&A time at the end. If you are viewing this as a recording, feel free to email me directly. There will be contact information at the end of the slides. And if you have any questions and comments, just let me know. There will be a survey at the end of the presentation that will be emailed to you directly if you've registered for this webinar. As I've mentioned before, we're going to be covering the top 5 major areas of conversations when talking about adding an e-commerce shopping cart to your content management system website. First, why is it important to select the right e-commerce platform for your business? 2, how e-commerce differs among industries and companies in different markets. 3, e-commerce options to add shopping cart functionalities to your website. 4, e-commerce security recommendations and considerations. And 5, integrating e-commerce and marketing. If you're looking for information regarding having like a true e-commerce platform, our team is experienced in leading our clients through the e-commerce process. However, this conversation is mostly focused on adding an e-commerce element to a website. If you have more questions about what a true e-commerce platform really is, we have multiple blogs and articles that are listed on our website. Feel free to use those resources at your will. Our team has been helping clients quickly pivot due to the current events of the COVID crisis. We've been answering questions and assisting our clients by adding pay now buttons and e-commerce elements into their existing websites to make it easier for them to connect with their clients and their ideal audiences so they can continue to keep their businesses functioning up and running. As a team, we thought it'd be a good idea to share some of the questions and areas of conversation that have been popular in recent weeks. So with that being said, let's start evolving. Today, we're going to be covering these 9 sections. We're going to be talking about the business impacts, the business differentiators, the different platforms that are available, a couple of different case studies, the security, the marketing integrations, and finally our Q&A and closing. So when you first approach an e-commerce conversation, you have to think about what is best for your business. As we all know, whenever we're approaching a business conversation, we have to think about the pluses and minuses, the benefits and the drawbacks. And so, being that this is usually the first thing that we talk about with our clients, I thought it'd be appropriate to talk about during our presentation today. So, some of the benefits that we see when approaching an e-commerce conversation is migrating your online sales. When we think about this, we think about how you're able to take your products in your actual physical brick and mortar store, or even in your garage or in your basement, depending on the business type that you're in, and being able to move everything online. There's things that you just don't realize until the end, like lowering employee costs. You don't have to have a front-end cashier that is swiping cards and bringing in items. And so you're able to transition those people to being more of a proactive sales and proactive people to fulfill orders instead of cleaning up a store. There are other benefits to consider, such as customer tracking. When you have a customer walk into your physical store, you don't really know who they are. You know what they look like. You can see them probably on your security cameras, but you don't really know anything about them until they swipe their card. When it comes to an e-commerce platform, you're able to track that information immediately as soon as they come onto the website. You can see where they're coming from, you can see their buying habits, and if they've come to your website before, and you can track almost any type of detail when it comes to a customer tracking. When it comes to order management, one of the easiest ways for a brick and mortar store to know what has been selling frequently is to look at the shelves and have a guess. When it comes to e-commerce, we know for sure what products are being purchased frequently, and we can track all that information by utilizing order management. What I mean by this is you're able to see how many people are clicking on an item and actually purchasing. We call that a buy rate. And one of the focuses in key concentrations is increasing that buy rate. And when you have an e-commerce platform, you're able to really see what is necessary, what needs to grow, so you can increase sales. When it comes to remarketing, we think of marketing as kind of an introductory format. Remarketing is where you can really drive that revenue. If you had a preference, would you have a lot of first-time buyers where they buy one product one time, or would you have a smaller group of a cohort of people that buy a lot of your product frequently? That way you're able to actually get to know your customers, you're able to resell them and tell them about the new products that you have, and all this great information that first-time buyers don't necessarily know about. When it comes to e-commerce, you can use that remarketing tools to really solidify that relationship. I know it sounds kind of weird to have a relationship with online purchasing because we don't have that face-to-face, but as I think you all know, during this interesting time of our lives, people are really looking to e-commerce websites and having a relationship with those brands. And so when you're able to have that remarketing, it's a really powerful tool. When I think of a business that is switching to an e-commerce platform, lowering the overhead costs overall, I think, is one of the more beneficial assets that people don't really recognize. When you think about having your brick and mortar store, you think about your lights, you think about the electricity, you think about all of these different things that add up at the end of the day. When you have an e-commerce store, it's your house sometimes, it's your garage, maybe it's your warehouse. There's a lot of those costs that are just reduced. You're able to streamline your product search, and so you can help people purchase additional products, kind of like that remarketing effort. You're able to do product comparisons, and so if a person is looking at purchasing multiple different items, they're able to say this product and this product. They're able to look at the two of them and really decide what is best for my needs right now. And you can control that conversation and guide your customers to make that purchase by using product comparison tools. We're able to have an enhanced customer service. What would you rather have? Somebody coming into your store and disrupting your everyday business life, or somebody submitting an email and going through your contact management system to file a complaint or figure out what the needs are? You're able to control that customer service element and really have a dialogue with your customers that way. And plus, you can have almost like a personalized shopping experience. When it comes to e-commerce, you're able to see the tracks, see the clicks, see where the heat mapping is going. Heat mapping is where we're able to see the mouse on the screen and where it actually goes. And so when it comes to user experience, we're able to solidify and actually know the data about how people are shopping on your store. I know that it's possible in a brick and mortar store as well, but when it comes to e-commerce, it's just so crystal clear, and we're able to see that. I hope you recognize the power of those benefits. Now, like all things, there are some drawbacks as well. You will have to shift your business plan. Have you thought about where you're going to keep your physical items in warehousing or in storage when you don't have access to your physical brick and mortar? You might have shipping concerns. Do you have a partner that is able to do your drop shipping or do your shipping with UPS or FedEx or all the other large brands? How are you going to be able to handle that? What happens if people buy a lot of items and you don't have all the boxes? We think about tax issues. We've seen a lot of our clients that are seeing that when they're shipping products outside of Minnesota specifically, we're having different issues with tax litigations. We think of one example specifically with the Wayfair versus South Dakota case. That was a prime example about how tax implications can affect e-commerce stores. If you are able to transition your business to an e-commerce platform, try not to sell out of Ohio. They have a really difficult tax nexus. When it comes to privacy considerations, right now we live in a critical time when it comes to privacy policies and all these crazy things. I really encourage you to look into and talk with your lawyers about what does it mean to have a crystal clear privacy policy so that you're managing your customers' information correctly. We are experiencing a lot of fraud and a lot of people selling selling personal information online. And that's all to do with the privacy policy. You don't want to get dinged, especially if you receive a letter in the mail from a person suing you about privacy policies. I really consider you to take it seriously. When it comes to e-commerce, I like to think of the famous quote about time travel. As soon as you discover time travel, you realize that you're one of the last people to ever discover time travel. Just like how the Amazon effect comes into play. As soon as you put your products on Amazon, you're going to realize that there are so many other products out there, and you have to realize what is your unique identifier. That can be a really hard thing, especially when it comes to if you are not the bottom price leader. You may have to really communicate online what the benefit or what the differentiator truly is, and that can be challenging sometimes. Depending on the website, upkeep can be a pretty different, considerable drawback. There are some website platforms where it's a relatively cheap and inexpensive way for customers to pay online. Or if you have a lot of products, we have some of our clients that have 14,000 plus SKUs on their websites where the hosting comes into consideration. There's a lot of monthly costs. So you have to really think about what is the upkeep of having a proper e-commerce website. And lastly, managing inventory. As a business owner, you already know it's hard to manage your inventory, but it's kind of different when you're able to put it on a shelf. If you don't have that brick and mortar store, it can be really challenging to manage that inventory. And so that's why we consider it almost a drawback. And so talking about the different types of businesses, we all know that there are several different types of B2C and B2B businesses. What I mean by this, is that a business to consumer consumable good, like a restaurant or catering or hospitality, is going to have different needs and different resources available to their clients than a business to consumer products company or a service company. We see a lot of our businesses approaching these conversations in different ways. When it comes to a B2C consumable good, we're seeing a lot of people adding on a shopping cart element, not transitioning to an e-commerce platform, but having like a Grubhub or a Uber Eats element or something where they can order online and keep a point of sale or ticket management system inside of their restaurants or inside of their ordering hubs. That way they're able to connect with their audience online. When it comes to a B2C product, we're seeing a lot of just simple add-on shopping carts. I think of specifically a client of ours that sells t-shirts. It's customized t-shirts and different like the swag items, the goods that you can put a logo on and sell it to your customers. That client specifically saw their business increase overnight because of the ability to add on a shopping cart instead of having a catalog where people had to order through the mail, the snail mail. The benefit to having that e-commerce is she got to know her customers more and they were able to make more purchases. When it comes to B2C services, I think of a plumber or somebody that's going into homes and providing a service for consumers. What a lot of those people are doing is that we're seeing a pay now feature being added onto their website so that their customers don't have to hand them a credit card, but able to go onto their website with their invoice number and pay the invoice online. That way, they're able to keep that management of dollars and money control within their website. And so they can continue to track and see when that customer is purchasing again and again. That allows them to do that remarketing tactic that I was telling you about earlier. When it comes to B2B, it's a completely different animal. And that's where Evolve Systems comes into play very well. When we're talking about a B2B product, we're talking like cardboard boxes, or we're talking about different types of products that businesses are in need of. we see a lot of flexibility and a lot of strength and a lot of companies really, really growing their business when they approach an e-commerce platform for a B2B product. When I think of a business, I go to like a metal foundry. Imagine if you were able to have a business where you are a foundry and you were able to connect with multiple different businesses and being able to have different companies have different purchasing options, different price options, all contained within one system. That's what we call just a pure B2B product e-commerce website. You no longer have to have a salesperson go out and meet with them to go and wine and dine a client to try to get that 1 to 2 product a month, purchase order a month. Because of B2B e-commerce websites for products, you're able to continue that sales cycle and actually increase sales with diminishing your actual costs of cost of accruing that deal. It's a really, really great opportunity for B2B product companies. When it comes to B2B service businesses, I think specifically to like CPA firms or law firms. We're seeing a lot of our customers really hone in on what makes them different. Right now, we're predicting, and this is kind of a silly thing, but with this whole quarantine business going on right now, we're seeing a lot of lawyers being highly ranked in search engines due to their ability to go through a divorce court. We're going to see a lot of that interesting business come through. And so if you don't have an ability for your customers to pay online as an attorney or as a CPA, you're going to miss a lot of opportunities for people to actually pay you faster. We think of one testimonial that we have from a client of ours where we not only allowed them to accept a payment online, but we actually reduced the time it took to make that payment. What they did traditionally was something that is against PCI, and I'll get to that, what PCI stands in a little bit, but it stands for payment card industry. We'll get into that during the security portion. But what they were doing is they were going against the PCI regulations and having an actual letterhead being sent out in the snail mail to their clients, and had their clients write down their credit card number on paper and send it back to them. Now, I don't know about you, but me, if I receive a bill in the mail and I have to write down my credit card, I'm not going to do it immediately and then and there. I may push it off a day or two, or maybe forget about it, right? We're all human. We all make mistakes sometimes. If a business does not have the capability to make that payment immediately, or even in an email where people can enter in their credit card numbers via email, think about how much faster you're going to be able to get paid. That's where the B2B service e-commerce capability really comes into play. Moving on, I wanted to talk about a couple of the different shopping cart options when it comes to adding a e-commerce element to an existing website. Here, some of the platforms that we here at Evolve Systems really like to promote is something called Ecwid, WooCommerce, Shopify, and that coveted Pay Now button. When we see, we do have a couple different testimonials, but I really wanted to highlight that these are just a couple of the add-on features. Here at Evolve Systems, like I mentioned in my introduction, we have the capability to do those custom e-commerce projects for larger businesses. But like what I said, it's going to be, this is mostly for adding on features. So let's go into one of my personal favorite clients. This is Esh Construction Supply, located in St. Paul. If you notice, their website is going to be mobile responsive, so they actually have the ability for mobile ordering for on-site deliveries. What this company does is that they sell construction supply for like diamond blades, they sell cutting equipment, and they do all of this additional stuff. And their biggest pain point was that they weren't able to have their customers on site when a diamond blade broke or when it became dull. They had no way of making an additional order unless they called into their main office and somebody made a payment online. Think about how much work that takes. Now, because of their ability to add a shopping cart feature onto their existing content management system, they have the ability for someone to use their mobile phone to make a payment to get a delivery delivered on site at their construction sites. How cool is that? They're able to connect with their customers and vendors by hosting virtual training videos and for products and safety provisions. It's probably a good idea that a diamond blade in a cutting company has safety and training videos on their website, right? The reason why they're able to do that is because it is a WordPress website first with an Ecwid shopping cart added on. Why that's so important is because if you don't have that integral information that helps your customers make that buying decision, those safety videos, the training semantics, all the additional information, that content that people are craving in today's world, if you don't have that first, it's going to be really hard to just sell a product. And I think that Esh does a really good job utilizing their user experience. That's what UX stands for, to guide customers through that buying process. Because of that, they're able to increase their sales. And one of the other additional features is if they have a customer that is buying a blade, it might be a good idea to recommend the actual the tool that it takes to use that blade. They saw a substantial increase in their sales once we were able to make those recommended products, because people don't realize that the machines don't necessarily come with the blades right away. You have to think about what is the customer pain point that they're suffering from to really increase that sale. The other really interesting things about Esh is that they have the value-oriented content that leads to conversions. I know I talked about that in their videos, but I really wanted to feature that ability to have that content first and then sell them the products. The other opportunity that I want to talk to you about is Eagle Eye Photography. This is a really, really great client of ours. The person's name is Brian Hafey, and he is a Navy SEAL commander, now wildlife photographer. Eagle Eye Photography, or Brian Hafey Photography, got a lot of attraction because of his military service. Being that we're a veteran-owned company ourselves, we really like to assist other veteran companies. And Brian had a really hard time selling his photos in different formats to customers across the entire US. And so because of Evolve Systems and because of adding a shopping cart feature like Shopify onto his website, we're able to have an isolated location, an isolated single business, be able to have a national reach. How cool is that? Because of this, we have an automatic price generator that whenever you're selecting a photo and selecting the medium that you would like your art on, you're able to scale and have that automatic price differentiator for various sizes. I personally like Brian's website because of the ability to tell his story. Brian is just an absolute hero, and if I could shake his hand right now with the COVID crisis, I absolutely would. But Brian, if you're watching this, we salute you and we appreciate your business. We really like to focus that this is part of our Wounded Warrior commitment. Brian was one of the case studies that we have for a free website that we build once a year for a veteran that is getting up and started. If you get the chance, go out and visit their website if you're needing some art for your walls. And now I'd like to talk about the Pay Now features for buttons with gateways. One of the more difficult things for businesses to do is to have a e-commerce element without selling an actual product. With the Pay Now feature, you're able to have the capability to accept those payments by an invoicing feature. So Cave & Associates, or Office here, is one of our featured clients that is a leasing and tenant improvements business. What they wanted to have is a simple online payment portal where people were able to log in, view their invoice, and pay their invoice online. The Pay Now aligns both with the card brand and the ACH payments. Now, payments in ACH is a very difficult thing to understand if you don't know the world of accepting payments. But at Evolve Systems, that's one of the featured services that we're able to assist with. Accepting credit cards if you're not currently, and assisting you with that ACH transaction as well. Because of this, we were able to streamline their transactions with their communication with their managers so that their managers were able to send their tenants this link to pay online. This allowed an increase of speed of their cash flow that directly affected their bottom line. And not only did it add value for their clients, but it kept people on time. And nobody likes to send that email of, hey, where's that payment? Where are you? Because of the capability with Evolve Systems, we're able to have that feature available to Cave & Associates. And so one of the more challenging conversations to have about an e-commerce website is the security considerations. This is, I gotta say, one of the top 5 things that people come to me and ask about, because they ask, what about our customers' credit card information? What if that is breached? What if a credit card is stolen? What if we accidentally run a stolen credit card? And the way that we're able to mitigate those risks, and I say mitigate the risks, not solve them, is through adding several different layers. One of the ways, layers of security. One of the ways that we add that one of the layers of security is called an SSL. It's a secure socket layer. What that means is whenever you go into a website using a search engine and you go to a website and you look up in the top browser, you typically see like if you're on a Mac, you see a lock. If you're on a PC, you see safe, if you're using Google Chrome or something like that. An SSL allows that ability to have your website look safe because you're able to have those different layers of security for encryption of data. I know that sounds a little bit Greek to some of you, but an SSL adds that guarantee that the business is doing everything they can initially to think about the safety of a website. I highly encourage you, if you have a website in general, especially an e-commerce website, to really have that SSL on your website. It's affordable, it's easy to add to a website, and I highly recommend it. Google even indexes websites that have SSL certificates higher than those that do not. Cannot express it enough. Get an SSL certificate. When it comes to payment protection, we think of different ways of protecting against fraud. Adding a layer of having like the CAPTCHA whenever you're about to make a payment. We see it constantly when a business is being targeted by a fraudulent credit card business. When I mean that, I mean a company or an entity or a person that has a bunch of stolen credit cards, and they'll use a website that doesn't have these security considerations and just run simple dollar transactions to see which credit cards are still available. If your website is targeted by that and a credit card is run and you see a lot of transactions come through, you really need to lock down your system because you may be liable to several different unfortunate situations where lawyers have to enter the conversation. And as a small business, sometimes it's really difficult to manage those conversations. I really encourage you to add a payment protection so you don't have to have those challenging conversations. Like I referenced earlier, the PCI, the Payment Card Industry Compliance. What this means is that the PCI is a coalition of different card brands, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and other types of companies that came together to solve a lot of the problems in the business world where they were having fraudulent transactions. They were having credit cards stolen constantly. And so they wanted to have this compliance check where people were taking a test online to make sure that they were processing payments correctly. If you do not have your PCI compliance done and have your tests submitted and approved, you will have a monthly fee of, it depends on each company, but any monthly fee that can be negated to zero is a good thing for a small business. I highly encourage you, if you accept credit cards right now, to go and look at your PCI compliance and if you are currently in compliance or not. There's one walk away today. I really hope that you get the PCI taken care of. Some other considerations to come into play is the GDPR regulation that recently came out from the EU. It stands for the General Data Protection Regulation. What this means is that you have to specifically share what information you are collecting from your clients whenever they visit your website. There's been a lot of topic and discussion about when this actually comes into effect and how this directly affects businesses that are not currently in the EU. If you're a business that is an international selling company, you will have to be compliant with GDPR. There's no really way to go about it. You will need to be in compliance. Otherwise, you can get dinged and flagged by other companies. I highly encourage you to look into it with your lawyers and see if you need to have GDPR if you're selling overseas and into the EU. Locally here in the United States, we have something that is coming into fruition called the CCPA. You might have seen a couple of blog articles from Evolve Systems about what does the CCPA actually stand for. It means the California Consumer Privacy Act. When we approach conversations with privacy policies, business owners typically kind of brush it off. That privacy policy issues would never happen to me, right? Well, they're starting to happen. We're starting to see a couple of our clients hear rumors of their friends and businesses starting to receive letters in the mail due to CCPA. Here in Minnesota, we're predicting, unfortunately predicting, that we'll have a similar regulation called the Minnesota Consumer Privacy Act. When legislation comes out in, I believe, April or so, we may see something that directly affects a lot of businesses. It is important, and you really do need to consider your privacy policy when approaching adding an e-commerce element into your website. If you don't, you may receive a letter if you don't take this seriously. I highly recommend it. Other privacy policy statements, we really recommend that you take a deep consideration into what it means to have a privacy policy. If you don't have it, you might get into some trouble. The other thing to consider is returns and refunds. If you do not have a returns and refunds policy on your website, sometimes people can take advantage of that. They weren't aware of how your refund or return works for your business. So what I recommend doing is approaching that conversation and adding it to the footer of your website of just sharing what you want to happen. Of course, there are templates and we can guide you through those conversations, but what does it look like to have that return and refund policy on your website? But I highly encourage you to have that conversation and really communicate what it means to have that return and refunds policy. And for one of the last top 5 conversations is one of my personal favorites. It's all the different marketing integrations that you can add into a website. When we think of e-commerce websites, we think of different types of customers. We think of different audiences that you're really able to connect with. And one of the ways that you're able to connect with different types of audiences is having something that is called a landing page. So let's say you sell soccer products or our friends in the EU football products. And let's say you have the Minnesota United sports team that you really want to target a marketing campaign for. And so you wouldn't want to sell Wisconsin gear for a Minnesota team, right? What you're able to do is create a landing page and have that specific page be targeted on Google and on Bing and on all these different search engines for those audiences specifically. And you're able to track which areas are top performers for you. And so if you recognize that you're not getting a lot of sales in Wisconsin, it might not be worth investing a lot of money into Wisconsin. But if you're operating out of a state like Utah or Ohio, if you're receiving a lot of traction with it, might as well invest more into your marketing so that you can increase those sales. The phrase location, location, location really hones in when it comes to e-commerce considerations. We always think about location, location, location when it comes to a brick and mortar. But when it comes to an e-commerce platform, you really have to think about where are my customers right now, physically, especially with everyone being in quarantine. You can have people all across the entire world purchasing your products. All you have to do is show them how to buy from you. And with landing pages, you're able to do that. When it comes to social media integration, we highly recommend that you have some type of social media campaign so that you can have targeted messaging and an actual plan of attack on how to approach campaigns. The easiest way to have a viral connection with a large audience is posting videos and having different types of content and messaging out on different social media platforms. Think about your product. If you have a product that is a beautiful product, we really think that Instagram has been a really great connection for e-commerce purchases. I don't know about you, but with me being in quarantine, I love going through Instagram and seeing all the different ads that I'm targeted for. And I've actually made a couple of purchases for things that I just frankly don't need, but I want because the product looks attractive and it calls into my logos, ethos, and pathos for wanting to make that purchase. You're able to do the same when you're adding an e-commerce element to your website. Think about the full spectrum of how to attract businesses. We really want people to understand how powerful social media can be, especially when it comes to having a widespread approach to every different type of platform. When it comes to pay-per-click, we call those PPC campaigns. Pay-per-click is whenever you go to a browser and you see an ad or you see businesses being listed first, and then the organic listings happen after that. We've seen some very, very powerful metrics, especially in the B2B service or B2B products categories, because of the not a lot of businesses understand how to perfectly utilize this. And so when we have a successful campaign, and we're starting to see a lot of these pay-per-click campaigns really bringing in that revenue for our businesses, everyone wins. We see pay-per-click campaigns being one of the best ways to introduce a new product or a new service into a business. If you are considering this as a B2B service or a B2B product company, I highly encourage you to look into what pay-per-click campaigns look like and if it's the right fit for you. When it comes to Google ads, we see the same thing. Google Ads and pay-per-click campaigns are oftentimes combined into one campaign proposal. The reason for that is because they have some of the same similarities in how best we can attract new businesses to have you on top of the search rankings. I know it's a little bit confusing when you talk about it for the first time, but I really encourage you to reach out to our team and read a couple of our blog posts that we've put together for our Google Ads and for our paid pay-per-click ads to do a little bit of research and really understand how best to utilize this feature. And as a new business manager, one of my favorite tools that I have at my fingertips is my customer relationship manager. It's the CRM integration. I think it's such a blessing every day to get an email from my CRM to tell me who's actually visiting our website. From there, I can see how long they were on each page, what services and what products they were able to look at, and if they filled out any forms for any of our information. When you have a CRM integrated directly into your website, you're able to really understand that entire customer journey, and you're able to adjust it accordingly. When we think of CRM integrations, we think of companies like HubSpot, we think of SharpSpring, we think of Salesforce, we think of all these different larger organizations that have really had a lot of popularity in the business to business and business to consumer industries. The reason for that is because they work. And it's a shame if businesses don't capitalize on these different types of software integrations, because it really does make a direct impact into your business. Imagine being able to understand where a person is coming from, how long they're on each page, and if they converted to buy a product or not. Through CRM, you're able to have a lot of those tools like that I talked about at the very beginning, those remarketing tools, those actual campaigns, all these different features are able to be contained and actually developed in these CRM features. I highly encourage you, if you don't have a CRM, look into some available options. There are plenty of free products. There are plenty of free things for you. HubSpot specifically has a free platform. SharpSpring is a very affordable CRM for small businesses that are looking for a system to really hone in on and get smart on. And then I think of Salesforce as a larger entity. We see a lot of our larger B2B Fortune 500 businesses using Salesforce for various reasons. And that all ties together what the different types of marketing integrations you can have for your e-commerce website. So at the end of the day, an e-commerce website is not just a billboard. It's not just something that have to showcase your products on and to really communicate what you have available. It's one of the best tools that you can really have for your business. Whenever I'm approaching a conversation about an e-commerce platform, I like to say that an e-commerce platform is one of the best sales people that you can ever hire. If you think about it, a website doesn't sleep. A website doesn't take Christmas off. A website doesn't get sick. And so if you're able to have the best salesperson, wouldn't you want to equip them with the best tools available? We spend thousands of dollars in business on training salespeople. We spend hundreds of dollars a month on lunches and entertainment for our clients. Why not take that and put that investment into your website to see even better results? Because of different e-commerce marketing integrations, you're really able to see all that is available to you and how best to utilize them. So I hope that answers the questions about marketing integrations. And I know that we're starting to run up on our 45-minute mark, so I really want to transition into our Q&A time. And so I'd like to introduce one of our core team members. His name is Joe Drennan, and he's been on our team for a little bit now. And Joe, I want to open it up to you to see if there's any Q&A questions that we can help answer online.
Yeah, and again, you've heard a lot today. If you do have questions, use the Q&A piece down at the bottom of your screen. If you're not seeing it, if you just hover down at the bottom, it'll show up. One of the questions we have, Don, is how long does a typical integration usually take when somebody decides?
Yeah, great question. So like all things in the marketing and website world, there's a lot of asterisks around conversations about timelines and how long things take. When we think of an average time for a project to start from initial conversation to starting to make those transactions online, I like to have 3 different types of businesses in mind. If you are a a business to consumer product company where you're selling maybe 5 to 10 products just to have an online sales presence, and so that your customers can purchase things online. Like, let's say you're a brewery and you want to sell your t-shirts or mugs or things to your customers. Having an e-commerce shopping cart can be done within a month. We're able to have all those conversations about the photography, the actual SEO, the pay-per-click campaigns and the Google campaigns. And from the start of the conversation to the launching of that e-commerce platform, it really all depends on the number of products. So it can be a matter of a couple of days to only a few weeks. When it comes to a business-to-business product, we're thinking of companies that have a lot more products on their pages. This can be a little bit more of a challenging conversation about how best do we want to create that user experience. And so we like to say if we're able to have something within around the time frame of 1 month to a quarter, we see that as a successful timeline for our clients. The reason for that is because we don't want to just have something up and running and lose the opportunity for businesses because it was sloppily done. We really want to make sure that that user experience is taken into consideration, and having all those different features like related products and comparison features so that your customers can have that best experience. And then the third category that I think of is that business to business service provider. Adding a pay now feature can be done within a week. We've seen a couple of our clients that have submitted our help through our help desk wanting to add in that invoicing feature that I talked about. If you have a merchant processing account that is already created and you have a gateway available to you, we're very easily able to create that payment gateway on your website. We're talking about a week to 2 weeks, depending on response times. I hope that answers the question.
I believe it does. We had another question asking, how has e-commerce helped businesses during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Oh, wonderful question. The way that this helps businesses through the global pandemic that we're currently suffering in is we're seeing a lot of businesses that were completely 100% brick and mortar, not having the e-commerce elements on their website. Because of the services that Evolve Systems provides for our business clients, we're able to actually add on those shopping cart features so that they're able to conduct business and frankly keep their employees employed. I know that a lot of our restaurant clients have been hit directly because of the quarantines, and it's been such a blessing to see a lot of our restaurant clients take advantage of e-commerce so that they can keep employees on staff. When we think of like a brick and mortar store that sells a product, if they don't have e-commerce, they're sitting in the water. There's not a lot of opportunities for people to walk into stores right now. With an e-commerce add-on or an e-commerce element on your website, you're really able to keep transaction and keep business flowing. And that's what's important right now. And that's why we're actually having this webinar, is to express the availability to continue to conduct business. We hope that you take advantage of that.
Excellent. Steve's asking, what types of business-to-business service companies do best with e-commerce, and what problems are they experiencing that this solves?
That's a great question. And Steve, thanks so much for being on the call. And thanks for sharing the information on LinkedIn too. So for what type of business-to-business service providers, we see a lot of businesses that are in that, not to call you out specifically, Steve, but have a consulting approach to it. If a business is able to provide that experience online where they're able to provide that service without having a physical interaction, if they don't have the capability to accept a payment through their website, you're missing out on an opportunity to collect that payment faster. Recall when I was talking about that Cave & Associates business, they had the difficult time collecting payments from their customers because they didn't have an availability or a capability to collect that payment online. And so it slowed down the process, and people got behind because not everybody fills out their, writes down on a piece of paper their credit card information right away. And so any type of business that accepts a credit card or accepts payment from their customers should really consider having a pay now feature on their website.
Thank you, Don. Another question that came in is asking, if a customer pays on our website, how do I know if the payment went through?
Oh, great question. So through the e-commerce functionality that we have for our different shopping cart features or even e-commerce platforms, we're able to have order management and fulfillment sections in the back end of a website. What that means is just like a Kanban board or just like a regular way of accepting payments, we're able to go into the order fulfillment section of a backend on an e-commerce website and track what customer bought what, if they made the payment and if it was a successful transaction, or more importantly, if it wasn't a successful transaction, and if that order was fulfilled or not. I think it's specifically one of our partners with the Packaging Distributors of America. They had a really critical time with wanting to have the ability to have purchase orders, credit card statements, ACH, as well as in-person cash on delivery. And because of the system that we set up for them, their e-commerce add-on to their website, we were able to track all that information on the back end. And so if a payment does not go through and it is declined, we're able to have I like to call it a flag in the system that says this payment did not go through, but they attempted to make a purchase. This allows you to actually have the information from that customer if you have the phone number or email required for making a purchase, to reach out to them and say, hey, this payment didn't go through. I'm not sure if you just fat fingered or what I like to call the American thumb syndrome on your cell phones of just having too big of thumbs for your cell phone. And just if you make a mistake entering the credit card information, it happens. And we would hate for that product or that purchase to be completely lost because you don't have the capability. With the e-commerce functionalities that we include on our clients' websites, we really like to feature this as a top feature to collect payments from customers.
Thank you, Don. Another question we have is, if I add a Pay Now button to my website, does that site have to be secured? And because I don't want to I want to read this correctly. I want to make sure the credit card numbers are not on my own website.
Great question. So when it comes to a Pay Now feature, we like to say that all of our customers that we set up, we highly encourage you to look at that SSL certificate so that your website is encrypted. When it comes to the actual payment gateway, there's a reason why we have different applications and gateways set up with our customers. If you have a transaction that is fraudulent, you get flagged and your merchant account could actually get shut down if you're running false transactions. So in order to really make sure that your website is secure, we have all of our information for your credit cards truncated. Have you ever seen a credit card that has XXXXXXX and then the last 4 digits? That's called a truncated card. You're able to run reoccurring transactions through an e-commerce platform if it is that recurring system, if that is a required ability for your e-commerce platform. And so that you're keeping your customers' security safe, or that information safe, so that you don't have a breach. If you want to add that Pay Now feature, we highly recommend that you look into the different safety and security opportunities that you have available to you. But to not coin a phrase, if you want to evolve your website by adding that Pay Now feature, we highly encourage you to look into payment processing or security.
Excellent. The next question, there's actually 2 that dovetail nicely. I have 5 main products I want to sell online now, but I know there's more coming. Where do we start? And then the other question that came in is, can I update the e-commerce site myself? So I think those 2 really go well together.
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you recall from the presentation, I introduced one of the capabilities or shopping cart add-ons called Equid. We think that Equid is one of the better opportunities to add those the top 5 initial products to an e-commerce website, because it's a relatively asterisk around this conversation, easier platform or integration to add onto a website. If you are looking to add additional products, if you want to test it out with those 5 top products and just test it and then eventually grow and grow and grow, we highly recommend Equid. You are able to add additional products into it. I believe it's up to 500 for the initial basic plan for Equid, I believe. But if you would like to edit your shopping cart yourself, one of the fun features that Evolve Systems has available to them is something called our open lab time. Usually it's an in-person thing, but if you go to our website, we have a section available for COVID-19 crisis talking all about how we can help set up an open lab time for our current customers, where if they've worked with us to set up a shopping cart, we will sit down with you over a Zoom call or a Google Hangout and actually go through the back end of the website with you, just as a security net. If you have a more challenging thing that actually does require a developer to sit down with you or do it themselves, that's when we start having those billable conversations. But if it's just, how do I add this image? How do I do something like this? We offer that service for free to our current customers. We really like to say that if you have invested so much time and resources into your business, it would be a shame not to actually be able to use it. And so, because of that, we have our open lab time available if you need to make those additional shopping cart add-ons or changes, if that makes sense.
Makes sense to me. One of the last questions we have is, isn't it expensive to take payments through the website?
Great question. I always love countering this with this conversation of, isn't it expensive to just keep your products on the shelf? If you're able to continue to make those payments online, you're able to have those different types of conversations with your customers. When it comes to online transactions, you can typically see an industry average of around 2.75% per transaction plus 30 cents per transaction. So if you're a business-to-business products company, that can be a lot of money right off the top. If you're using a thing called like a Square, or we're seeing a popularity with PayPal or Stripe, that's where those high ticket prices for merchant processing come in. When you work with a company like Evolve Systems or our sister company, Evolve Payment, we're able to take an analysis of your current processing history and see where we can provide value. That value is in reducing the actual cost it takes to accept that payment. We have some of our customers that are paying on the high 1% ranges, and some customers that are in the CBD space that are processing around that 4% range. It all depends on what type of business you are in and if you're processing payments correctly. For the CBD business specifically, they were processing payments at 8% per transaction. Think about that. Nearly 10% of their entire business was taken away just to accept a payment. That's ridiculous. And so we were able to have a conversation with them, see how best we can utilize payment processing to work for them, not just to have it as a product that they had themselves, but an asset, a tool that they could use. And so when it comes to payment processing, it's all about how you do business. And we like to have that conversation to figure out how best we can help you instead of just giving you what you should have. We give you what you need, and we ask those necessary questions to make sure that we can reduce that rate.
Now, this last question came in anonymously, so I think somebody's trying to hide their identity. They want to know what hair products you used on, and they say they're for a friend.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you to the anonymous person that asked that. For my hair, I just give it the good old St. Paul wash. It's hop out of the shower and use the best hairspray that I can. It's so funny, at different events, my hair is often brought into conversation. As you can tell from my first picture, I'm utilizing the quarantine beard, and so I'm looking at different beard oils that people have available. I'd love to see everybody else on the call if you've been able to grow out your beard, or if you've really needed those hair salons. Thank you for the fun question. It's been that was a fun one.
I was saving that one to the end because we don't have others.
Yeah, thank you. That would have thrown me off.
Yeah, so those are all the questions. Unless anybody else has got something that's popped into their mind, feel free to use the Q&A or even the chat window.
Cool. Now, I do want to highlight that we're coming up on the end of our time. It's currently 10:53. And so I wanted to just share my contact information with you directly. My name is Don Raleigh III. My email is don3@evolve-systems.com. My phone number is 651-556-4635. That is my direct line to my office, and I can answer it here on my cell phone. Also connect with me on LinkedIn if you have any questions or would like to see additional content from Evolve Systems. I just wanted to say thank you again for viewing our presentation. As a small business and as a family-owned operation, this means a lot to us. And the fact that you're here and saw our content means a lot to me. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your dedication, and thank you for evolving your website. Are there any additional questions?
None have come in, no.
Wonderful. Well, if you do have any additional questions, feel free to email me whenever you're available. Unless there's anything else, it looks like we're going to be ending about 5 minutes early, which is fantastic. So again, thank you all. I sincerely appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful day, and don't forget to wash your hands. Wonderful.
Thanks.
All right. And that's the end of our presentation. Thank you all.